Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to game number 2 in week number 4 for our bonus matches in this community tournament. This time we've got TrattpingviN, Hexapus, Poor Sheep, and Pollina, the leaders of each of their respective teams. And of course, Philathanic here, giving us some additional commentary on a map he's probably actually looked at before.
I have looked at it, so very briefly when picking it out, the main feature of this map is look at the water. It's a little bit awkward. It's all on one side of the map for the most part. So water is going to be something that's a little bit of an issue. We do have robots, so that'll be some mitigating factor. Also elites, scientists, and scavengers. There's a decent scavenger spot right to the north of one of those water patches in the crater. Tratt is going to find a scientist immediately, going to pop down some water pumps and go aluminum, figuring that he can forgo steel, and he did buy up 80 steel, so he will get to HQ1 just fine. 2 robots, Poor Sheep and Pollina, not surprised there. Less of an issue with water. Pollina next to a geothermal borehole, so could make use geothermal vent, could make use of the geothermal borehole patent. And then Hexapus is going bold. Go big or go home. Elite. Up all the way opposite from any of the water, and no iron over there either. So, yeah.
That's aggressive. On the other hand, kind of nice to have access to silicon. On the other hand, that is that's a lot of silicon to take at the start of this game. I'm a little nervous about it. I'm definitely expecting some solar panels on Sol 2 out of Hexapus because we do have an office colony. Certainly worth paying attention to. Office colony and a ton of steel users can work out well for a power play. We'll have to see how it ends up panning out. Oh, that's rude. I like it.
Yeah, so
that's how we're starting this game. All right.
The only place that you can actually hurt a scientist is their aluminum, and might as well turn it into a trace early. The only place with the underground nuke, I should say. And since we do have the leading players, we are going to have more early aggression on the black market, and that is what we like to see in Offworld Trading Company.
Certainly is. Well, Tratt deciding that he can't quite put up an actual building yet, so he's just going to have an unnecessarily large stockpile of water for free to put down the buildings. Yeah. But of course there is that opportunity cost of where else could these claims be? He definitely just wants everybody to have no water this game.
Well, yeah. Yep, I don't like that one bit.
It's dangerous.
Moving into some solar panels, as you predicted.
I like it. I don't really like the positioning on them, to be honest,
I don't either.
Because aluminum's nice and valuable, but
we'll
see how it works out for him.
Some wind turbines picking up a long-distance water. We don't have enough steel production on the map for both Tratt and Hexapus, although steel is going quite cheap, so they should be buying it up. And instead, Tratt just sold all their steel, and then bought it up and then sold it.
Having some trouble actually making decisions. Poor Sheep finally realized what was happening with steel. I'm sitting here thinking, Poor Sheep and Pollina both making a big mistake, in my opinion, auto-selling that steel constantly. Not something you want to do when it's this cheap and both your opponents are steel users who don't have steel production online. Don't want to be fighting over that unless you absolutely have to.
Hexapus needs to buy their steel right now. Hexapus did buy into the natural food short, and is making power money, 649 a second. So maybe this elite found is going to work out for Hexapus. Got buildings up that make money, although Tratt finally got 2 electrolysis reactors up.
Yeah, electrolysis reactors are okay. They did cost him some steel, but steel not particularly expensive, so that's not a big deal. I do wonder if it would have been better, and by wonder, I mean to say, man, I really wish that he had gone ahead and put down some glass kilns right now, because you've already spotted that there's someone on this map with an absurd amount of silicon production. I mean absurd. Silicon's only $21 right now. You could easily buy up a couple hundred of that. Get down those glass kilns and just try and get in on that market while getting is good. I mean, 96 profit off of that with no adjacency right now, according to our game. Feels like it would have been a nice build.
So the Elite is the first HQ3, which is not very often that you say that statement with highly competitive players.
No, it's not. But power money, it'll do some work.
It will. That's power money is going to go down as both Pollina and Poor Sheep are moving into some wind turbines. Poor Sheep's single wind turbine, more just to try and help them not fall into as much debt, but it is transferable into something else. Pollina's wind turbines are going to be stuck as wind turbines for a lot longer. Tratt finally moving into some buildings.
Hey, buildings. I hear those make
and
money.
They're frozen.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what happens when you just start the game by telling everyone else that they don't get to have water, and everybody's going to kind of notice that and think, man, you're kind of a jerk. Maybe I care a little bit less about winning and a little bit more about making sure you lose. That seems to be some of what Tratt's suffering from at this point.
So I think this is one of those cases where it would have been strictly better for Tratt, instead of claiming the rest of the water, to put some remote steel production. I mean, sure, there are pirates on there, but even if someone pirates it and they don't freeze it, it would have probably already been HQ3.
Yeah, and pirates really aren't that bad to deal with. If you've got 3 steel mills remote, let's say, as long as you're careful with them and you pay attention to their launches, you're only losing 20 out of your 120 steel shipment, right? That's an 18% hit. It hurts, but it's not that bad. It's not like a magnetic storm, which just comes through and definitely is going to take out probably at least a third by hitting 40. So it would have been possible to work around, and that's just not what happened this game.
Hexapus has identified that aluminum is something that you can hack. No one else is in enough aluminum, although did he change it out to a steel surplus?
Steel surplusing, yes.
Or
oh boy.
Tratt's gonna like that, but I mean, when you can't make steel and you're an elite and you need a lot of it, more than any other faction. Well, okay, about the same amount as the robot. I mean, sorry, scientists. But scientists, when played correctly, have a steel producing advantage.
That's true.
36K for a patent lab.
I mean, it's a nice building. 36K feels like a lot, but of course, this is one of those few times where I'm actually okay with the patent lab being put next to the laboratories because, well, you got it on the auction. It's an extra claim in a game where you only have auction a tile. So I'd say it's a nice pickup. It's a bit pricey, but Pollina was in a position where Pollina had no debt and power was falling off pretty rapidly. So I think I'm actually okay with that, even as an extremely expensive pickup. It's still a very nice building to have.
The Elite continues to lead in headquarters despite not having steel, not having water. Hexapus is saying, I don't need any of that. Give me a hack array, give me some power, and I'll beat everyone else to HQ4. I'm loving it.
Yeah, definitely worth noting that our robots were specifically trying to go robot in part to avoid aluminum, in part to avoid water this game, and Hexapus is just driving that knife in. I mean, HQ4, 47,000 set aside, it's going to be shorted. On top of that, Tratt, of course, had his medium aluminum nuked immediately this game. I mean, it had to be like the moment that person had access to an underground nuke. They used
Pollina
it to knock down Tratt.
Nuked it immediately. The robots,
dangerous move for Pollina without access to it.
Yeah, the robots still don't have any aluminum whatsoever. They do have a stockpile, at least Poor Sheep does. Although that's in response to the hack, so we'll see who gets the better out of that between Poor Sheep and Hexapus. Kind of hard to tell in real time. Tratt is still at HQ2, is a scientist in C debt. Those are always a good early pickup, although this one's going to have a hard time getting HQ3. There might be one exception where an early scientist majority buy isn't the best thing you can do.
Yeah, there's just this simple fact that TrattpingviN was not able to upgrade quickly because he got into a bunch of tiles he couldn't actually use to make money. And the upgrade has only been made more difficult by Hexapus consistently shorting this aluminum and really not making much aluminum himself at all. Whereas almost no aluminum's actually being produced on this map. That just makes upgrading so impossible for TrattpingviN. He's got 53,000 set aside. All right, not enough. It's not enough. for him to actually push to an upgrade. That's so exceedingly painful when you've only got 6 claims to your name.
Now Tratt's just angry. Nuking Hexapus's aluminum. But at this point, okay, it might not matter because Hexapus just froze almost all of Poor Sheep's production buildings. Poor Sheep has 32k on hand. Some of that's being used to build buildings. Hexapus has 68k. I'm expecting a majority buy attempt right now.
He definitely has the option of going for it. Let's see, 1 chem refiner, 2 chem refineries up. I'm trying to glance through and see. He's got glass kilns set up, potentially. The power surge definitely just hurt him, though. That's going to make it difficult for him to actually make enough money to get the buy done super, super fast. I believe he's still just a little short right now of being able to take down Tratt. It's hard to say what direction Hexapus wants to go right here. I want to see a buy.
Until the power surge happened, I would say, yeah, go for the buy for sure. He still has 80k, though. I mean, I like being aggressive. I would like to go for the aggression, especially considering that you're still an elite in a game with no steel production and no water access. So having a sub that can drop that steel price for you, because that's what the sub AI is going to do, seems like a good idea to me, but that window of opportunity has all but closed.
Yeah, Poor Sheep's got the cash on hand now. Doesn't really seem like much of an option for Hexapus. Not really making money at the moment is Hexapus. What he is doing is starting to secure optimizations. He's got a little oxygen. He's starting on some chem production. He's got 1 in glass production.
Also going
then, of
for
course,
slant
optimization is very important for him. Yeah, slant drilling also super, super critical. Very, very nice to be picking up those patents. Of course, Pollina already taking virtual reality. And let's see. Poor Sheep has picked up geothermal borehole. I believe that one was an auction.
Well, Poor Sheep had the geothermal borehole spot, so that's always
Works
a
for
good
him.
choice.
Yeah, man, Pollina's still back at HQ3. This is really kind of the downside of having grabbed that patent lab, is you do want to start pouring money into it immediately in order to get some use out of it, and it's great to get that use out of it. Absolutely fantastic. But just a little bit difficult long term, and that's why we've seen it swapped over to a pleasure dome to actually pull in some cash.
I'm pretty confident right now in my prediction that we will have Tratt's first loss of the tournament. HQ2 as a scientist.
At Soul 5? You think that's a weakness?
Has enough to make the upgrade, and I don't know why he's sitting here not doing it. Upgrade, put down to 3 steel mills on remote steel, and try to turn yourself from Mr. Irrelevant to maybe irrelevant.
Yeah, I mean, it's just... On the other hand, when you're this far behind in the game, and you realize what awful, terrible decisions you've made that have led to this point, because this is 100% your fault that you're in this position, don't you kind of just die a little inside and give up? It feels like a little bit of what we're seeing out of Tratt right now. On the other hand, he is also trying to work on fuel, which is getting surplus, and that's just going to make things worse.
Yeah, I mean, eventually you just fall too far behind. Well, now we have some potential targets for Poor Sheep. Once again is another potential target, because if Hexapus buys into Poor Sheep, I think the odds of Tratt saying, screw it, I'm joining you, are very high.
Are pretty high, yeah. All right, Hexapus is going to go for it. Poor Sheep has almost enough to defend, but of course, if he commits all his cash to defending, he's not getting any advantage
Tratt,
off this upgrade.
As predicted. Ew, I think if
What's going to happen?
Kills
we're so
him,
close.
If Tratt kills him, he's dead. Hexapus gets the win.
Doesn't have enough.
Poor Sheep just does it.
He found it. He found it. Oh boy, that was... I don't even know. I genuinely don't know where that came from, because he was just shy on cash right up until that last moment. That was...
Somebody's going to have to go look at the replay when this is done and see what actually happened there.
So Tratt does seem rather committed to the idea of the only way I'm getting into this game is by being someone else. He's got 140,000 in the bank right now. The problem with that is he's still only making money off of 5 tiles, effectively. Well, I guess his aluminum's pulling in 50 a second as a trace tile, but not really what you're looking for, and everybody's just, it's too late in the game. Everybody's gotten expensive. You're not going to pick up anyone else. Slant Drilling's finally kicking in, it looks like, from Hexapus. He's going to go ahead and secure some of this valuable water, and suddenly Tratt's entire game plan has 100% fallen apart.
Yeah, well, right now it is a race between Hexapus and Poor Sheep, and both the A-Team and Series Cavemen, which they represent, are lagging and behind, so both of their teammates are very much approval of the situation. It allows them a chance to catch up, and I would say Hexapus, well, it's kind of hard to actually judge right now who's in the better position. Hexapus does have those optimizations, does have a nanotech, that's a good patent, superconductor good, carbon scrubbing also good. What does Poor Sheep have? Just geothermal borehole and now 4 optimizations. So
he's getting there, but slowly.
Yeah, slowly. So it's kind of hard to say what's going to happen because Hexapus does have 2 steel mills online, finally moving into steel. So that's not as big of an issue as it was earlier. They do have the problem that 10k power surges and their territory is very power surgeable.
Yeah, that's never a pleasant thing. I mean, both players have a fair amount of that going on. This circuit overload is just ridiculous, by the way. That is shutting down an awful lot of power production for the moment.
I missed that. That is a lot. Yeah, I was going to say that Hexapus's territory is easily frozen, but Poor Sheep is taking blobbing to the next level in this game.
Well, that's what we've seen Poor Sheep do in each and every one of his games that we've watched, I think, is Poor Sheep, he likes to be a robot, and he really likes to try and take advantage of as much adjacency as he can, and not worry so much about the fact that Black Market can and will come after him. He seems to believe that long term, it's going to be better for him to have the strongest production he can, rather than worry too much about those moments where he's getting hit by Black Market. That's where it's worked out well for him. And I have to say, I think this circuit overload is actually a bit mispositioned, maybe ignoring the fact that geothermal borehole had been picked up by Poor Sheep.
Yeah, a little bit of a misposition there. Poor Sheep does have the cash advantage in the short term over Hexapus, although, as I said that, the cash just swapped.
It disappeared into carbon scrubbing. That's the thing. Carbon scrubbing finished up, and suddenly Poor Sheep, well, that's pretty expensive, $300 chems right now. He's now headed toward thinking machines.
Yeah, well, that means Hexapus is immediately licensing carbon scrubbing, so Poor Sheep is going to get half of those chems back. That'll be a nice little bonus. Pollina finally deciding to join the HQ5 party. She was lagging behind on HQ4 for quite a while. She did have the ability to get the upgrade for quite a while, although it would have been very expensive in steel, so I'm not entirely sure what her game plan is or was, but she actually has a game plan unlike Tratt.
Yeah, TrattpingviN has managed to secure all of his own stock. That's something. Oh, now he's trying to pick a winner, it seems, by going after Hexapus, which is an interesting decision. I think what this is, he's seeing that Poor Sheep has a bunch of money, seeing that Hexapus doesn't have a bunch of money. He can pick up a bunch of stock right now, try and tilt things so that he can go maybe half and half with Poor Sheep, then potentially work with Pollina to bring Poor Sheep down. That's the only thing I can see long term that Tratt might be thinking about. That said, this is a bit of a risky move because suddenly Hexapus is going to be focusing all of his attention on Tratt. Tratt needs to hope that Poor Sheep can finish this up quickly.
Well, Hexapus is actually, at least by this one stock purchase, has correctly identified that what he needs to be worried about is Poor Sheep, not Tratt, and is starting to buy into Poor Sheep. Well, Tratt...
He's had that for forever, though. He has been sitting on that one stock for a very, very long time, and so I don't know if...
I thought it was just purchased. My bad.
That's but, we'll just have to see how Hexapus actually commits to handling this. There is an advantage that Tratt not making much money, Poor Sheep making a lot of money. Poor Sheep could finish him off with that huge amount of money. And of course, Poor Sheep's stock is still very, very cheap to acquire. So I think you're correctly analyzing the situation, saying that Poor Sheep is the one that needs to be brought down first. Then the attention can be focused on Tratt afterward.
Right, and it's going to be pretty hard because Poor Sheep is defending themselves. And only is... 20% closer to buying out Hexapus than Hexapus is buying out Poor Sheep. Hexapus also falling into some debt. problems there. Hexapus, their optimization centers are starting to work for them. They
Black market is open for
are
business.
almost fully into oxygen. They are fully into chems, so
In progress.
This is that difficulty about being an elite, though. The idea that you have to fully commit to a resource. It takes so long to actually get that done. Even on 2 optimization centers, if they're working on it as much as they can be. And then afterward, you have to be extremely careful with what you're actually doing with your tiles, because, quite frankly, 4 chem refineries at fully optimized chemicals, we can see how that price is just falling so rapidly. Might need to be shifting these around, adjusting them to be a bit better production in other things, rather than having so many resources committed to this one thing.
One thing about Tratt's buying the Hexapus is it is a terrible metagame move, because out of these 4 players, which one is the most likely to found expansive, would you say?
Oh, Tratt's going for the kill.
Optimization routine successful.
We'll see if he can get it done.
Yeah, now
He
he's
might
going
actually
for the
pull this
kill.
off. He might actually get this purchase on Hexapus, because this is what it is to be an elite. He's got the cash now.
I guess it wasn't a mistake.
He got there. He got there. Pollina got as much picked up in Tratt as she could, but now what happens? Now what happens is the question. So Tratt has a subsidiary. That's great. He's still HQ 2?
Yeah, so his stock price, despite having a subsidiary, is not that much higher than Pollina's. Only $10. And Pollina has 3 purchased into Tratt. So the only way Tratt wins this is if Hexapus starts making very, very good money for him. But if Pollina finishes the buying up all of Tratt's 2 other stock, Poor Sheep is about 160k away. Well, okay, a little bit more. It would be what, 260k, something like that, from killing Tratt.
Oh boy. I don't think I have ever seen a game quite like this before, and that's saying something.
I'm
going
going
to throw that out.
Go back to the point that I was going to making earlier about Tratt buying into Hexapus. I mean, he did get the buy, which at first I didn't think was going to happen and wasn't possible.
Hexapus just ignored it and couldn't. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so what I was going to say was, like, Tratt should know out of all the players in this match, Hexapus is the most likely to found elite. So in the metagame, you would be better attacking Poor Sheep or Pollina to knock them out, rather than going for the team in the rear.
That is a fair point.
But if this pays off, which is a very big if,
it turns into an actual win.
as Pollina is 64% of the buy on Tratt right now. And Poor
Sheep
Sheep
quite
is,
rapidly, and Poor Sheep's encouraging it.
Yeah.
Oh, Tratt, that was
dumb.
Bold. All right, we'll go with your word. We'll go with your word. I usually stick to trying to be a little more diplomatic, but
hey, these are the best players on all the teams. They can handle it. Accurate description.
That's fair enough. It does look like that's what Pollina might be looking to do. And I'll be honest, the thing about picking up that subsidiary is, all right, you've actually done something this game at HQ2. Great job. But your stock price, as you were saying, still isn't too high because of your assets not being too high, because you haven't upgraded your HQ yet. So it's not gone into the stratosphere yet. And on top of that, your subsidiary isn't making you any money in the short term. It's got to ramp into that cash. And now it's doing something. 1,400 a second. That's great. But does 1,400 a second truly overwhelm 3 entire headquarters worth of tiles that your opponents have up on you?
And optimizations and hacker arrays and pleasure
and
dome.
Patents. All this other stuff, and the answer is no. Yeah, pretty clearly. And so suddenly you've become a huge target. Poor Sheep is just trying to get this buy done fast. It's not gonna happen. I mean, 700,000, that sounds like a lot of money. It's about half of what he's gonna require. Not a good spot to be in, not a good spot. So anyway, TrattpingviN becomes a huge target because his stock price is very, very cheap compared to the value of picking up 2 claims off purchasing him and getting 2 subsidiaries because he wholly owned Hexapus. And that's nearly what Pollina got, just a little bit short on that number of shares. Very nice pickup to go ahead and grab.
I'm all for Tratt's move in a one-off game. But as I was saying, when you're You're part of a tournament, and you can probably identify that Hexapus is most likely to be the elite. It's still not.
Yeah.
It's still going to be very close between Poor Sheep and Pollina, though. And Poor Sheep, a lot of Poor Sheep's money is going to evaporate very quickly when they do start purchasing into Pollina, and they should have started purchasing into Pollina before Pollina finished buying out Poor Sheep's stock, because every pip of stock means Poor Sheep's going to have to pay a lot more. So I don't know why they're hanging on.
It's for the short, is what it is. He's working on shorting electronics. So he's been keeping all of his money in electronics to keep that as expensive as possible.
Yeah,
but I don't think it's worth it.
Short-term play, but
he's actually getting very, very close to this. Like, typically, this is just done and dusted. All right, game's over. But in this case, Pollina needs 400,000. Poor Sheep needs 300,000 more at this point. So,
yeah, it is going to be very close. Let's see, what does the black market look like? Well, Pollina just used their black market. Poor Sheep is sitting on 1 power surge. Pollina is making.
You should use that.
Yes, Pollina is making 2.2k a second off of the subsidiaries. It does have the huge stock price. Poor Sheep, 20, a little bit more now, 10% ahead of Pollina. So this is getting close, very close.
Very close indeed. Only about 150,000 more needed for Poor Sheep. Pollina, though, only needs about 100. Even when this last stock purchase goes, I'm wondering, oh boy, the power surge finally came down. That should have come down quite some time ago, but it is good to go ahead and see it. 96, 97 is Pollina.
Like...
Very, very close, but it looks like Pollina is going to be our player with 100.
Yeah, in a crazy, crazy game. One that you will not see very often with high-level players.
Well, and one that you'll never see, frankly, with low-level players. Let's be honest. Someone trying to go for a buy like that,
you'll
who isn't
see
very, very
HQ2 low players try to get the buy, but you'll not see them actually make a buy.
Get there. No, not at all. Good effort by Poor Sheep at the end there to try and keep up. But Pollina, who we were saying was kind of falling behind, it felt like, for a long time, but did manage to commit that cash into getting some certainly solid patents picked up. No optimizations whatsoever anywhere. So it was just the patents kind of winning out the day for her. Does manage to get it done and clean up this highly contested game.
Mm-hmm. It was very highly contested, very entertaining. Lots of places where players can go look back and say, I should have done something here instead of there. And that should be an encouragement for anybody watching this game or replay, that even the best players make mistakes that sometimes cost them the game. Poor Sheep, for example, hacking instead of buying into Pollina. With it that close, if Poor Sheep had bought into Pollina and then did the hacks, I think Poor Sheep might have won.
Yeah, I also want to point out that Pollina had an extremely vulnerable source of money that was never hit this game, which is the pair of water tiles in the north.
Those were picked up really late.
They were.
So that's probably why they weren't noticed. But yeah, 474, 301. That's a lot of money from some lows.
Well, and the lows, I'm less concerned. Like the lows, okay, I can understand not hitting the lows. That's going to take 3 nukes to take down, whatever. But the one medium in the north, even like whenever that was picked up, you can nuke that and take it down from at the end of the game, 1400 a second, and knock it down to almost nothing. With just 1 nuke, you're going to get that job done. And
to be fair to Poor Sheep, I didn't notice those northern water tiles until just now myself. There is a lot to keep track of in an FFA game.
There absolutely is. But once again, as you said, it's the best of the best right now. And so I'm gonna pick on those little details. And I think part of it's just that I love nukes more than most people. But
the best from each team. If we had the best of the best, we wouldn't have some players from some teams.
Best of the best, right here, right now. It's just my excuse. Although eventually we did have, by the way, our sub AI go ahead and put down some steel mills because it felt like upgrading to HQ3. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah. I mean, look, it was entertaining, but I still think going into those steel mills immediately when you upgraded HQ2 would have given you a much better shot at winning than the HQ2 buyout shenanigans. Sure, someone else might take your water, but you're a scientist. You have the advantage to picking up slant drilling. Go to HQ3 Patent Lab. Pick up slant drilling when the chemicals are cheap.
Yeah, before they get expensive, preferably, because of course we did have a couple laboratories down this game, but it wasn't off as Colony. And I have to say, I think Hexapus might have. Look, if Hexapus had been expansive, he would have won this game. I'm just throwing it out there. Yeah, I know that wasn't available, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't available at the start, right? We had Robot, Scientist, Elite, obviously. And I think our last one was Scavenger, which nobody ended up founding as. So it wasn't available. If he had been that, I'm pretty sure he would have won. But I feel like maybe just pushing a little too hard into Elite is what Hexapus was doing. Leaned too hard into it and kept trying to go for the long-term advantages when he was actually in a position where his life was being threatened very, very soon. And that felt difficult.
Well, so Hexapus could have won this game if the first time Poor Sheep upgraded, he had correctly identified it was a very good potential for majority buy pickup. And then the second time, if he would have sold down one more pip into his own shares, he probably would have got it.
I didn't see if it was the time, because we were looking at both Tratt and Hexapus. I didn't spot if it was the timer preventing him.
Yeah, I didn't either, because I was flipping back and forth. I'm not sure if it was a timer that prevented it or if it was a money thing at the end. I mean, it was a money thing at the end, but I don't know if it was a combo.
I don't really take this argument about aluminum having slowed Hexapus down, though, because if he was an elite.
I know,
if he was expansive. Yeah, I know, but I don't really take that because he had 2 aluminum next to his base. So he could have gathered plenty of aluminum. Even if that gets knocked out, all right, it was next to your base. Switch it to something else. Pick up further out aluminum. Defend that. I don't take that argument.
Well, I mean, expansives weren't on the map.
They weren't there anyway, so it's kind of a moot point at the end of the day. But
of all the hypotheticals that we've discussed, it's the most outlandish.
We could have had all HQs turned on, but
we could have. I'm just glad we saw a game with an elite that was competitive.
That was competitive. He still got picked up by an HQ level 2 scientist. Let's not forget that part.
Yeah. Well, you know. But theoretically, that HQ2 scientist could have picked up anybody.
Theoretically, that is
Hexapus did have, I believe, one of the higher stock prices.
Well, I didn't think it was that high because he wasn't quite a bit
too much higher. Hexapus said, ouch, that hurts.
Was in quite a bit of debt, and that definitely had an impact on it. I did love that Poor Sheep, by the way, did have like these 800 profit electronics factories running for a while, 600 at the end of the game. So, but still, that was a weird game. That
very much so was a weird game.
I genuinely don't know if I have any more to say about it except for Tratt. Maybe should have made some steel.
Yeah, just maybe.
No longer an undefeated player, though.
Nope, no longer apparently undefeated.
Apparently Mars is different enough from Sirius to get the job done.